to approve the minutes as submitted?
Aye.
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 Great. Thank you all very much. So I wanted to just a couple brief comments. I guess just in trying to think about comments for tonight's meeting, I guess the one thing that came to mind was that we all know change is constant and there's plenty of it, and we as a commission are not immune to it. And to that end, I just wanted to take a moment just to acknowledge Linda's passing. I know that the Board of Selectmen had a moment of silence, and Linda was a long time loyal, dedicated employee, and certainly as a commission, there's a lot that we've shared, but probably no one shared more than Scott. And Scott, just personally, I know your relationship, and I know how important that was, and we're truly sorry for you and for Linda's family. And you know, that kind of goes into the other transition. This is your last meeting as the director of Beach and Rec, and I know you'll be with us as a consultant, but that change will need, you know, stewardship from everyone. And we're in good hands with Austin, and we've been a team that's worked together for some time, and we've been privileged to work with you, Scott. The town has been privileged to have you for 42 years. And I just want to express sincere thanks for all you've done as an employee, as well as your level of service for the community. Those will be my comments. I would open it up to the floor if anyone has any other comments with regard to Linda or Scott. Otherwise, I'll give you some time for that, and then we'll move into the director's report. Okay.
Rob, if I could say something real quick.
Please.
So, you know, Scott gave me my first job right out of college, and I'm forever indebted to him for that. I learned a lot working with Scott for the 10 years as the program coordinator under him at Beach and Rec. Appreciate all the knowledge that he shared with me and will continue to share with me. You know, it's been a pleasure, and the town is forever indebted for the work and passion that he's brought to this job. And, you know, was only the second Beach and Rec director in town, Scott was, and to take that role and bring it to, you know, what the department is today is great. And, you know, he's been able to touch, you know, generations of people by being the Beach and Rec director, and not many people could say that. So thanks, Scott, for everything, and look forward to continue working with you going forward.
Thank you.
Well said.
Known caller.
So we'll have a chance for additional comments at the ending of the meeting, and I think everyone has had a chance, or will have a chance to speak personally. Scott, I will tell you that a couple of us have discussed maybe an opportunity for the commission to meet by accident, not as a planned meeting, not for any business, at a local pub. And if we can do that within regulation, we would love to buy you dinner and have an adult beverage. So we'll be in touch, and we'll see if we can make that work. And I'll coordinate with everyone on that. So before we get into the director's report, I gave Scott and Austin a heads up. I will ask for an update on the dog park. There's been some change you may be aware of, and there is some opportunity, and I will be asking under old business, based on the information we get from an update, you know, if we to open the old business to take action on the dog park, but at the very least have a discussion. So with that said, we will turn it over to the director for his final director's report.
Wow, that is really final. We are pretty much up and running as far as the summer staff. Unfortunately, this weekend was a washout in many people's eyes, but I think it was a good pause for us as a lot of the staff was just getting back. And so it gave us a chance to congeal. And I met with the staff along with Austin and introduced him as the incoming director. And I think it was a good little meeting. And we're going to be moving forward. The lifeguard staff met afterwards and they're getting set. And we're ready to get going. I think this weekend is going to be a good one, and we'll be all set. Staff is, as I had indicated, is a senior staff coming back in. So we don't have a lot of what we call newbies. So everybody knows their job, they're confident, and we will do a good job for the community for this summer. Hopefully, we know this summer is going to be a lot different from last summer under COVID. We're not going to be counting people on the beach, so it's going to be more relaxed. We will be diligent in enforcing the rules and regulations, but it's just going to be a different mindset on everybody, I think. So I think with Austin's leadership and me backing him, I think we're going to be good. We are still, as indicated, we're still kind of reeling from Linda's passing. And we'll get through it. Sorry.
No apology.
But we'll find a good replacement, and we'll move on.
I know that Scott, just for the commission, if you're not aware, you may or may not be, but Linda's family, it will be private. And I know Scott will probably be included in that, but Scott will make us aware if there's any opportunity on behalf of the commission or the department, if there's anything additional that we can do.
They're looking at possibly not this year, but going into next year with the celebration of life. So that's where we're at right now. As far as the let me get past this. As far as budget goes, year to date, we're pretty much on target. We're at going into the start of June, we're at 93% left or percent used. So that's pretty much on target. So 7% for the rest of the year. And we have two payrolls, but we should be, I think we'll be in the black at the bottom line. There may be some accounts that are going to go under due to recurring bills, but we're working on that to try to change that. But we're at 93.6%. So I think it's typical end of year seasonal startup, and I think we'll be good. So we're there.
Okay.
As far as incidents, we did have one incident this past weekend, which I'm going to be talking to Captain Race about. That staff felt a little bit uncomfortable with the response, but I want to bring that to the captain to discuss with him privately, because it's an internal matter. It wasn't anything with the public. so to speak. It did involve a person from the public, but I want to talk to the captain as far as the department's response with our staff. So that will be happening tomorrow. And Austin, I'll bring you up to speed on that. And I think moving forward will be better. Given the police department's stance on supporting us, we just got to make sure we got to solidify it so the staff knows that the police department is there to back them 100%. So I'm going to be dealing with that tomorrow. Projects update. We're still waiting on new pricing on the pavilion at the smaller pavilion at Salt Meadow. And I'm working with Austin and with the American Rescue Plan, developing a plan for some projects within the town that we'd like to get going to help the community revive, which are, and Austin, you can jump in, but waterless restroom, which we were planning on doing at Salt Meadow. We would be copying that for West Wharf and for Rockland. So we're not dealing with the portable restrooms. These would be permanent but waterless, which are used in many state parks. And I think it would be a good move for the town, especially down at West Wharf, being so close to the water. It would not be a septic system. It's a vault style restroom. And I think it would be a good move for the town for that. Going into the dog park, I reached out to Vin Paolini, and I have we've received word from the state that we are going to be allowed to create the dog park at Salt Meadow, which would be on the easterly side of the main entrance, adjacent to the solar panels, to kind of give you guys a kind of a location. That open field, we would be creating a dog park in there, which would be wood chipped. We would have black chain link fence and an unleashing area, some benches inside. We will plant some more trees in order to create shade. But I gave him a rough estimate of the length, and we're looking at without the hard numbers as far as the lines and the angles, we're looking probably about $6,000, $6,500 for chain link fence, which was a lot lower than we had originally anticipated. But the original estimate at Bauer, we were doing a lot of amenities with patios and this, that, and the other thing, where these would be additional amenities that we would look for donations towards. But I know we're looking at the American Rescue Plan for that as well. I just got that quote in late this afternoon. What else? We do have a movie Friday night in Sandlot at Salt Meadow in the amphitheater. It's not a drive-in, it's just a regular movie. I'm going to try that. see if the mosquitoes are out, but we're going to try it that way first before we do have the equipment to go to the drive-in aspect, which was well received last year. But we wanted to try to do an in-person, sit on the lawn with your family and try to experience the outdoor movie effect from the ground. So that's happening Friday. We have a dance recital on Saturday, rehearsal. Sunday is the recital for rental at Salt Meadow, and then another one on the 19th. So the park is being used. We will be doing a concert at Salt Meadow with the Salt Meadow Advisory Committee in July. And there's another couple of them planned as well. So we're trying to bring in more things other than sports to the park, to bring people to the park. So that's where we're at.
So we just kind of dial in a little bit on the dog park? I just had a couple of questions. So one is just to get some insight on, I think there's a sense of urgency around taking action. I think the dog park has been on the agenda for quite some time. Two is we have approval from the state, but does the Salt Meadow Commission weigh into this?
Yes, they're in agreement with it. I think it's going to be a positive for the park, and I think they're pleased with it. It's going to be, as I said, on the left-hand side, easterly side of the entrance. And the dog park concept has been around for years, but it was endorsed by the Board of Selectmen with no back funding. It was a concept. If you can raise the money, they would support it. And it was going to be at Bower Park. But we kept on looking Bower Park, and there really wasn't a conducive area that was not adjacent to parking. It was remote. So they finally told the selectmen that there's really no area at Bower. So we started looking and we came up with Salt Meadow. And I think it'll be a win for the town. It's got right on Route 1 and there's plenty of open space. So I think we're all set to move forward, especially with the endorsement from the state.
Now, Beach and Rec wouldn't be funding this. We don't have a budget per se in Beach and Rec, so we would just make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, which includes some of the plans you mentioned, benches and trees. It sounded like maybe previously there was more in consideration for Bower Park.
Money
who designs it, but I mean, who designs and says this is the right layout? Like, Beach and Rec would ultimately make the recommendation, but who's saying this is what we need versus just quickly saying, let's just get this done and put fence up?
Well, I'm looking at all the property lines and trying to, it's a weird configuration, but I'm trying to go with the property lines and make the most use out of that property that we can. So it's going to have some jigs and jogs, but we have to make sure that there's no right-hand corners where dogs can get trapped and get into fights. So all the corners need to be oblique. So I will be bringing the design once I have it done to the Salt Meadow Committee for their endorsement, and as well as the Board of Selectmen. We did place money into the CNRE program this year, so there is backing money, and I believe Peggy's idea was to do a match funding, so that's in there, and I believe that was all approved when the CNRE was approved.
I guess just asking the commission, are there any other questions that you have? I mean, so here's Beach and Rec about to take action on a dog park. Scott's transitioning out. This will be Austin's. I mean, does anyone have any questions? Does anyone want to see the plans? I mean, would we ultimately be making a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen that we should fund $40,000 for a dog park or whatever the
It's-
number is?
Yeah, it's not gonna be that much. I mean, that was a high number, based upon the location and having to build infrastructure for parking and everything else. So the number that I threw out, this evening was the fencing, because we already have the parking in place. Where we didn't have that at Bauer.
Rob, to your point, it sounds to me like the selectmen have already approved this funding through the budget process, but I think it would make sense for once the Salt Meadow Commission, they've reviewed the design and recommended, I think it would be important for that to come here to us as well.
Sure.
Is there anyone on the commission that would be taking a dog or goes to a dog park? I mean, I just think, and Scott, have we already asked, like, all this work has been done. We know what we need to do to make a great dog park. But last thing we want to do is have the community say, I go back to the parking system we had, we were told to go do it and we did it and it wasn't great. And there's a lot more to that, but I don't want us to go all of a sudden stand up a fence and say, geez, we didn't think about anything. And I don't know what a dog park has. Has that been done? Or did we ask residents? Have we gone to other towns?
We've seen other towns, and it's a wood chipped surface. It's an area for the dogs to run free, off leash, where right now, anybody in town or everywhere in town, dogs are supposed to be on leash. They are not supposed to be let loose. And this is going to give them the outlet, not to be on athletic fields, but to be in a wide open area where the dogs can run. People can toss balls or whatever for fetch. But we will come back with the fencing design, and we'll get it in. We'll get public endorsement.
Well, okay, just a quick question, but Rob, one of the things that Rob is mentioning is, do we know what the need of a dog park is? Do we have 30 or 40 people that have said, I'd really like to have a dog park?
Many more than that.
Many more than that.
Yes.
Basically, every owner that has come in over the last 5-7 years to renew their dog license has expressed enthusiasm for a dog park.
There's definitely a request. And I think, I had heard that this has been going on 10, 11 years, requests and ideas and plans. I think the way we collectively should view this is that when this is done and Beach and Rec puts their stamp on it, that this is the department that ran with it, got the approval, made the recommendation, did the design, so to your point, Shane, and for the group, we should look at it. We should say we've thought about things and we got feedback, and make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen that says this is the work that went behind this, and we would, and let them decide on how it'll be funded.
Well, I think most of the review process actually is in the hands of the Salt Meadow Committee, and then they send it forward to us for our agreement.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even really an approval, it's our agreement, and then we forward it to the selectmen.
Right,
But
because
I believe it's their work product more than ours.
right, because they are an advisory committee.
I have a question about the design. I have used dog parks in the past. Will there be separate areas for large and small dogs?
That's still to be determined. Sometimes the little dogs get into the big dogs area
Right.
and they're fine. It's just a lot of the dog parks lately are wide open, to allow them to interject with the smaller dogs and the bigger dogs. But got to remember, it's just not unleash your dog and let them go. You're supposed to be watching the dogs and helping to control
Right.
what's going on. So,
And
But sometimes things can happen very quickly.
sure.
yeah, and same with fence height and such. And so in MP, I certainly appreciate and respect your position. I mean, I think Salt Meadow, they are, Bower Park was, a reporting subgroup of Beach and Rec, and they said, no, they couldn't do it. I don't know that Salt Meadow is going to come back and say the same, or they can do it. None of us here are experts. I think we all agree we're ready to make it happen in the sense that the town would like to do it. We think there may be funding. The Board of Selectmen will decide that. I just want to make sure that when Beach and Rec rolls up to the Board of Selectmen, that this is our recommendation, that, we all feel that all of us on the commission can say, the town made the right decision based on this investment, and we didn't rush it, and it's well overdue. So, Scott, I think, that's you and Austin. You've done the work, you have the information, you got the approval by the state. Salt Meadow seems to be handed that they need to do some design and your recommendations, and then we'll make time on next month's agenda and to review that, and with the goal of being able to send that to the Board of Selectmen after that meeting, so that we can say we feel like this is what needs to happen and we've thought it through.
I think it would be helpful if, once the design is determined, that if we stake it out, give everyone an opportunity to take a look at it in person on the grounds. That'll deter what Rob was saying earlier about, the public not having any input. And I agree with MP. Everybody who I've talked to who has a dog in town is really interested in a dog park. I take my 2 dogs to the Guilford Dog Park fairly often, and it's always a lot of people. And to Pam's point, they do have a small dog area, which is never used or hardly used. Sometimes, like, dogs take a break in there, but I've been there hundreds of times, and I could count on one hand how many times I've seen somebody in the little dog area. But I think that's one that we could, copy and use their best practices at.
Okay, thanks for the discussion, and I appreciate that. So Austin, next month, but that'll be an agenda item, Kristen, and we'll include this as under old business, which is a review of the proposal. And if we can, between now and then, if we have the ability to take a walk or meet down there, and when people's schedules permit, Scott, Austin will chat about making that an offering for the commission. Any other questions or comments relative to the dog park?
Not
Okay,
the dog park, but I do have a question about something else.
sure. Go ahead, Pam.
So Scott, you mentioned the American Rescue Plan. And as you also know, there was a meeting of the Bower Park Committee last week, and there has been some discussion about whether or not to go forward with the Harvest Festival in October. And Ted Rahman did get back to us saying that you had sort of given the green light to go ahead and start planning and fundraising, but I had run into Peggy Lyons over the weekend, and I mentioned to her, that this was under discussion, and one of the fears we have or obstacles is that, coming off of a pandemic, some of the local businesses who have typically sponsored us may not be in a situation to make a donation this year. And she suggested that there was, that not all of the money from the American Rescue Plan was earmarked, that there was some funding for projects such as community building events, which I think definitely the Bower Park Harvest Festival falls in that category. And she had suggested that I, send an email to Austin and Ted and you, trying to put this together, but then I thought, oh, we're going to have a meeting tonight. So I wanted to bring it both to, and let the commission know, as well as speak to you and Austin about the possibility, you know, can I go back to the, do you think this is appropriate? Do you support the Bower Park Committee putting together a proposal for funding? And we would, of course, still fundraise, but it would just be a way of having a supplement or a backstop, depending on what, you know, in order to have the festival this year, when we may have problems putting together adequate donations. So what are your views on that?
I think it's definitely appropriate. Community events to get the community back together after the pandemic is definitely on the list of items that this money can be used for. So yeah, so I'll be going to the, or Scott and I will be going to the Board of Selectmen on the 8th to get approval for some items like the West Wharf bathroom, Garvin bathroom, and some other sort of community events related to Beach and Rec. And that could, I know that I need the information by tomorrow, so that's not enough time to give Bower Park, but there'll be another opportunity to, you know, request funding. You know, if we could earmark something for them, I don't know what kind of funding they're looking for, but I think that's absolutely appropriate to ask for that.
I have the past budgets, Austin, so
Yeah.
we know what the festival costs, so.
Okay.
So I definitely encourage you guys to think about it. We just received the interim rule from the Treasury this afternoon, and we'll be talking about it tomorrow in a meeting. Long-term recovery committee will be talking about it tomorrow. So
That's what I was thinking too.
It is the rule book that we'll have to play by when we disperse these funds. But absolutely, I would start to put together a pro forma budget and request together, and we cross our fingers and hope that this is an acceptable use.
Okay, is there a deadline that we should have this put together? Or Scott, so should the committee put together a program for this year with a budget to submit?
I
or-
can base it off of the past few years
Well,
to have the average.
and we're also looking at what activities may not be appropriate for a post-pandemic environment.
And that would be, that's the long-term recovery committee, which the health department is involved with, that
Okay.
Austin and I attend.
Okay,
So we'll be able to figure out, I mean, it's all a matter of the social distancing and what have you. I mean, being outdoors, a lot of things have been lifted.
mhm.
But we just want to make sure that if we were going to have exhibits, they would be spaced accordingly. So they're not one after the other. We'd have to have spacing in between.
Mhm. But I'm also thinking about activities like whether it's scarecrows, making scarecrows or pony rides, or, you know, I don't know that we would, how do we do food?
I mean, Austin, you can chime in, but I don't think there's any issue with the kids making scarecrows out of the hay and old clothing. It's an individual thing, or they're with their sibling or parent doing it. And the horseback riding or the pony rides, they're insured, and it's a single person on a horse.
But what about things like hay rides where people are in, you know, closer proximity?
The hay rides we may have to look at.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the long-term recovery committee will
Okay.
have to determine.
Okay. Do you want me to send you, do you have a list of all of the activities, or do you want me to send you a list so you can?
Based on past years, yes, I have the list.
Okay, great.
I think now, I mean, there's really no restrictions in place right now, besides the indoor mask if you're not vaccinated, unless that gets, curtailed, which I don't see that happening. I think maybe just not things like the old timey games. I know maybe because people are touching at the same time, but all the other activities seem pretty okay.
Okay, well, I mean, even things like making cider. I mean, I don't know. I guess we would need to review all of the different activities and just to see how safe they are. But anyway, but I definitely will go back to the Bower Park Committee and let them know that we're putting something together, and that this might be to submit for funding. So even as we start also contacting our donors this week to see what we can drum up. Anyway, but thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions on any other projects? Okay, there is no old business, so unless someone has a motion to open up for discussion of an old business topic or to take action, we'll move into new business. Okay, so under new business, Bruce, I'll defer to you. I don't know that we may need a motion to open up. I was hoping to just have a 30-minute discussion. So maybe we need to make a motion to have a discussion with Austin on some of his observations, some of his goals, just to hear from Austin and some of his suggestions, which will be a work in progress.
I think if it's just a report, you don't need to open the agenda.
Okay.
But if you anticipated action, you probably would want to do it for that.
Yeah. So Austin and I have been chatting back and forth, and he's been very respectful and supportive of Scott and making sure that Scott has owned it. And I felt it would be a good opportunity tonight just to kind of hear from Austin, maybe some of his observations, what he's excited about, what, for the commission, some things he wants us to think about. And this will be a work in progress. I think what we mentioned at the outset, this is a change which presents an opportunity. So Austin, I'll turn it over to you just to kind of share your thoughts, and for the group, if there's questions for Austin or we want to have some dialogue. And what I'll do is I'll check in at about 20 after 8 if we go that long. So Austin, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Rob. So when Rob asked me to just give a little, report about, what I see the commission doing and the help that you guys could be, my first thought was when I meet with the senior commission right now, I really lean on them to be my eyes and ears in the community. Everybody runs in different groups and has different friends and goes to different places. So, one of my sort of pet peeves is, I don't know if I've said this before, but the general community saying that they don't know what's going on and are unaware. There's so many ways that we could communicate with the community that's already being done, and ways that we could do even better on. So using you all to really spread, the gospel of what we're trying to do at Beach and Rec, and to dispel rumors or myths or wrong information. That's what I really lean on my senior commission for. For instance, there's still people that feel that the senior center is not used and nobody comes here, and they have no problem saying that in the general public, regardless of if they've ever been here before. And if they have, they would know that, every room is used for the entire time that we're open, and there's no parking and all that. So if I can depend on you all to do similar to that, where if you hear something is wrong, or a rumor that needs to be squashed, I would really appreciate that. I try to stay off of the social media in town. And if any of you are on there and you see anything, you know, I don't expect you to respond on social media, but you can give me a heads up and maybe we could, you know, nip things in the bud before they get out of control. That's really appreciated because, you know, rumors and myths about what's happening, what's not happening, tend to get played out on social media or in the public, and to have the right info out there is really helpful. And I would appreciate if we could all do that. And I will help you do that by, you know, giving, you know, weekly or bi-weekly just emails about what's going on in town, you know, not waiting for the commission meeting once a month, but if something comes up, just letting you all know, this is what's happening. These are the events we have planned. These are some of the incidents that took place. So if you're out and about town and somebody approaches you, you'll have all that correct info to give them. And I think that will be helpful for you, knowing what's going on, and helpful for us at Beach and Rec to, you know, have the right information out in the community. Any sort of feedback on that, questions or? No? Nobody? All right.
I think that would be very helpful to be, you know, intermittently updated on what's, you know, what's hot, what's going on. That would help a lot.
Yeah. And not only me updating you, but if you see something in the community that you know I can fix or my department can fix, please don't hesitate to let me know, and don't wait for the commission meeting. If we could do something the day you find out, we'll do it. But if we wait the month, you know, if something happens tomorrow and you wait a month to report it, you know, we could have fixed it the next day. That would be really helpful to me. And I'd rather hear it from you all than somebody else too. So I would appreciate any and all help that you could give me would be greatly appreciated. And I think it would be good for us to not at a commission meeting, but maybe as a working group, sort of non-public meeting, to just get together and brainstorm ideas that you have, and how we can make the department to do different things. If you see things in other communities, if you go away in the winter and see things in Florida that we're not offering here that you think would go over really well, you know, events, programs, policies, whatever you see, let's talk about it. Let's sit down and maybe come up with some brainstorming ideas that we can institute in Madison that you see in other places. Because, you know, we have the little bubble of Madison here. We may not see other things that are going on, and if we can add something that would benefit our neighbors here in Madison, that would be great. And I'm all ears, and I'm open to trying anything. As my staff knows here at the senior center, you know, I rarely say no to new ideas. It's just, you know, we won't know if something's going to work if we don't try it. And if there's no sort of downside to trying something, I'm all for it. Because you never know what the public is going to enjoy or want to participate in. You know, staff just can't program off of what they think is the right thing to do. We got to get the public's input and sort of take a flyer sometimes and see if something works. And if it doesn't, we move on, we try something different. But I think always staying new and fresh and trying different things and different activities, you know, keeps people engaged and guessing about what we're going to do. And you never know what is going to be a home run or not. So you just got to try as much as you can. But yeah, any support that you all could give me, I'm totally open. I'm always in the office. I'll give you my cell phone number, office number, and I just look forward to working with everybody and seeing what we could do.
So Austin, I think that open communication is great, and I like the idea that, you know, you're open to trying things. Can you speak a little bit to, you know, having been with the department before, how do you see prioritization? How do you see, there's day-to-day operations, which you as the director, we've always tried to create a space for Scott to manage his business and not get in his business. But how do you view setting organizational priorities around projects?
So I think it's important at the beginning of the year, and then, quarterly or midway through the year to really sit down and prioritize what is feasible for the year and then an upcoming budget cycle year. And priorities change. If there was a big project that came up down at Rockland Preserve, say if we had a bunch of trees fall on one of the trails and it sort of locked up the preserve all at once, that may change our priorities to fix that for a multitude of safety reasons and usage. I think getting the public's input is important. Having them buy into what we're doing is really the only way to go, because that allows you to not, or hopefully not, face any negative feedback after the fact. That's, I think, when you get in trouble is when the public just doesn't know what you're doing. And not that that's happening or ever happened, but giving people ownership, giving the public ownership of what you're doing and letting them help you prioritize and help you plan for the year sets you up for success. And that's all we want. All of us just want to be successful and do what the public wants, and just giving them some kind of having them feel like they own what's happening in town, I think alleviates some of the pressure and negative feedback, because people, once they're involved and own a piece of what you're doing, they will step up and spread the right word and tell people what's going on. And when it's coming from, when information comes from me, it's different. When it comes from the commission, it's seen different. But if the right information comes from the public, then we're doing the right thing. If somebody on social media is asking a question and somebody random has no relationship to us as a commissioner department sets people straight, that's huge. And people respect that more than they maybe would coming from the department itself. So I think, prioritizing what the public wants, giving them an opportunity to tell you what they want, and then working off of that is I think the way to go.
So you mentioned possibly just having a brainstorming session other than a commission meeting. So that's something you'd be looking maybe after the summer. I mean, you're going to be in your role new. I mean, when does that happen?
Yeah, I would say September, October, like that. Yeah.
Any questions for Austin or any comments, guys?
I just want to say one thing in that as we make this transition, I think it's really important that Austin, that maybe if you could reach out to the various park committees, because it was interesting when last week at the Bauer committee meeting, there was a lot of confusion about, well, who do we contact? How does the transition work? What's the line of, the chain of command? Who do we contact for this particular thing? Or what if we need this? Or where, it's kind of like everyone has been so dependent on Scott for all these years that I think it's really important that it's clear to the various committees that work within the department, work for the department with all of our recreational facilities, that they are part of this transition too, not just our commission, but the park committees are very important, I think.
Yeah, I'll reach out to the chairs of each park and set up a time to meet with them individually.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I just have a question, Austin. How do you see the organization set up? Are you gonna have someone overseeing Beach and Rec? Like more like a Scott, for instance, or uh, like what Scott did, and then have someone underneath you handling the senior center? Been
So how
decided
it's
yet,
gonna,
or-
the flow chart, yeah, the flow chart's been completed. It's myself at the top, and then Heather Noblin, who's my assistant director here at Beach and Rec at the senior center, will be the assistant director of both departments. So it'll be myself and Heather. You know, I see myself handling the day-to-day operations of both departments. I'll be in the office at Beach and Rec 3 days a week and 2 days a week over here at the senior center. And then when I am not at Beach and Rec, Heather will be at Beach and Rec and I'll be over here. So there'll be a support figure in each of the offices, you know, 5 days a week. And then Heather will be responsible for, like for Carrie, the new recreation supervisor who will be hiring, some of the other staff here at the senior center, and I'll be responsible for the grounds crew, you know, everybody in general. Yeah, there won't be a specific person who's in charge of each department. It'll be myself and Heather, you know, splitting the time between the departments and reporting back to each other what's going on.
Wow. That's a lot of work to do. Are you planning on moving in?
Well, I'm in my office now, and
Okay.
I don't. Yeah, I understand it's going to be a lot, and there'll be a transition period that we've been working through for a few months now. But I think I have a grasp on, you know, what it takes to run both departments. I know it's, you know, Scott's done it a couple times before, and you know, it's difficult, but you know, I'm up for the task, and I have the right people in place to make that happen as well. So it's not just me. I have, you know, lots of terrific people that work under me now, and they all have the same goals and mission in mind that I do. And you know, it will be difficult. There's a lot of work to be done, but
Yeah,
that's why I'm here.
okay. Okay,
All right. If there's no other comments, you know, Austin, I appreciate it. I think it's a nice part of the transition. I think the takeaway is looking for a scheduled meeting in September to talk about, you know, some discoveries and just get feedback from the commission, maybe for us to revisit our survey and just have an open discussion on, you know, where could we go and where should we start? And so we'll schedule that and begin to share email on a time that might work for folks as we get closer. Thank you to the group for those comments and discussion. So with that concludes any new business we have. Anything else from the group? Otherwise, we'll see if we have any guests that joined us for public comments.
There's one person in the public. They don't have their hand raised.
Okay. So if,
can I just make a comment?
absolutely, Vince.
So I just want to let everyone know that the Madison Exchange Club will again be sponsoring and paying for and running the 4th of July parade on the 4th of July. So I think that's in keeping with, you know, keeping the town together and getting the town folk back together again, and just a great event. So it'll be, again, we're running the 4th of July parade, which I just wanted to let you know that. So should be a great
news. That's great news.
Yeah.
All right. Without any other, Bruce, any comments from your end?
No, I think you guys have done a great job covering it. I think, you know, Scott, I can't say thank you enough. And I think when Austin talked about generations of people. It's scary how accurate that is. These are big shoes to fill. I think Austin is the right man for the job, and we've worked hard to try to make sure that we have the management structure in place with a plausible opportunity to succeed. I think we will probably have some hiccups along the way, but I'm confident that we can work them out. So, we did recently approve a small budget for a chain and ankle bracelet to go around Scott's leg, attached to his desk. So it's not going to be going too far. I look forward to the changes and congratulate Scott on a well-deserved semi-retirement for the moment, right? Not a full retirement.
I don't see a comment. I hear crickets. Well, with that said, Scott, you left us in good hands. We've gotten through the opening weekend. We're selling beach passes. We're well staffed, and we're ready to go. So,
Hope so.
so with that said, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Motion.
I'll make a
Okay.
motion to adjourn.
So MP moves, Pam seconds motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
And that concludes our meeting. Thank you all so much. Have a